Talking Galactic, the show where topics affecting us all are discussed by mother and daughter team, international psychic to the stars, Joyce Keller, and author-speaker, Lane Keller. Get ready for some unconventional and thought-provoking perspectives and insights.
Hello, Joyce. How are you?
I'm very happy. It's all good. Things are great.
Welcome, everyone, to Talking Galactic with myself and my mom. We're here to spread hopefully a little joy and good humor as we pour through the issues of the day from a spiritual and galactic perspective. Joyce, what do you think about that?
I think I'm excited about my new book because you're talking about things that are joyful. So my new book is The Joy of Miracles. And right now, I think we need a miracle on the planet. So it's a time of miracles and joy.
Do you think we're going to get one or two or three?
Definitely. But it depends on...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It depends on the way people feel and think and act and treat each other. Where are we globally? Where are we as humanity? How are we treating each other? Are we overreacting? Are we reacting at all? No reaction? Disconnection? What's going on?
What are you seeing? Because I'm seeing a whole lot of disconnection.
I'm seeing disconnection, but I'm also seeing that people have an awareness that they have to be nice to each other.
So we're 2 years and months into the scamdemic, and we still have a situation on the planet where, how would you sum up the situation? You say it in your words.
No, I think that they have one last surge of the pandemic in New York City, especially. And that's, again, continuing a man-made project. Easter Sunday, a very special time for the entire planet.
And you're going to have to clarify that, because a lot of people, while still believing in Jesus or Yeshua ben Joseph, as we know him, our brother, as he likes to be called, a lot of people have signed off from religion. They know that it's been fabricated. They know the dates. I'm talking about the Christian religion, at least. They know the dates given are wrong. The control system relies heavily on religion to keep people in line, and so forth. So I know the answer to this already because I know you. So why are you saying it's the holy season?
It doesn't necessarily come from the church. It comes from mankind's belief system and what they feel in their hearts and souls. And most of mankind, no matter what the religion is, believes that this is a special time. It's springtime. It's a time of new beginnings. This is when even the animals know. And they're giving birth now. Birds are coming out. Butterflies are coming out of their cocoons. It's a new time. It's wonderful.
So it's a wonderful time. It's a little dismaying, but seeing the little buds coming out only to have huge cold snaps.
A lot of it is man-made with the use of satellites. They're testing. They're figuring out what they can do with weather. And of course, nobody talks about it, but a lot of it is created by humans. So it's a testing process. It's part of the growth process. They're trying to learn how and what to destroy, what to keep not destroyed. It's like a lot of interference with global activity. And the Galactic Federation, which is probably overseeing the whole thing, is questioning what mankind is really doing. That's why the weather is so crazy.
You may have to clarify on Galactic Federation, because a lot of that is phony. That what I'll caution the audience, for those who aren't aware, that a lot of quote unquote Galactic Federations have appeared on the internet over the years, and they're not necessarily legitimate. So which Galactic Federation are you referring to?
Let me ask you, what do you think is legitimate?
I don't think there is a Galactic Federation, if you want to know the truth. I think that these interdimensional species, if you will, each have their own agendas or minds of their own. Perhaps there are groups that gather together to decide some things, but is there really a guiding force that's overseeing our, are we being saved or are we going to be lost kind of situation? I don't believe that exists.
Do you feel it's any kind of overseeing, if you will, or guidance whatsoever? Or is it strictly an individual's interaction with themselves?
That's a really good question, because I came to an epiphany earlier this week or last week that we are, okay, this is going to sound trite, like everyone's going to say, oh yeah, we already know that, but it goes deeper than what it's going to sound like. So basically we're in a matrix of our own making, in that feeding the matrix in whatever form it is, even if it's how to get out of it, is feeding it. So for instance, all these, excuse me for diverting here a minute, we'll go back to the testing process and the growth process. That's really important. And they want to know how it is that we are working to get ourselves out of it. But let's go back to that. So all these truth tellers, alleged truth tellers over the years, right? Alex Jones, David Icke, et cetera, we've come to know that they were part of the matrix. And yet they've told so much truth, it's confusing in a way to understand why they're here in the first place. If indeed they're really part of the whole overarching control system, why are they here? So once you realize that it is our perpetuation of the situation that's making the matrix stay in place, then you realize that these guys, while seemingly on the opposite side, on the side of truth, are really just perpetuating the whole mythology. So the myth is that we are in this situation that we have to get out of. The truth is, the true reality is, we're not in that if we don't believe ourselves to be in that. Now, that's very easy for me to say on my pulpit. Everyone's dealing with garbage, kids being vaccinated, people dropping dead in the street, in poverty, hardships.
Thank you.
Possible loss of homes, debt, illnesses of all kind. What else? Starvation is looming because of the food supply shutoffs. People are even facing arrest for speaking out, for honking the horns during a freedom protest, for sending money to a trucker in need of food. They are being arrested now. So the question is, how do we leap from one reality, which is very real and affects us and is very hurtful and hard, to the new one, the real one, the Eden, the Utopia, the Lemurian version? How do we do that? And I believe, and this was where the epiphany came in, that number one, there has to be 100% belief in what is happening. It can't be 98%. It can't be, well, you have to believe wholeheartedly you are not part of that system. You're part of the new system, the real system. It's not a new one, it's an old one, but it's new to us. And number two is that belief has to become knowledge. So there's no longer a shadow of a doubt. And again, it sounds a little hocus pocusy, woo woo, but it goes deeper than that. I even issued a statement on it. Some people got it, others didn't respond. So it's interesting to see where it resonated.
What did you say?
Essentially this, what I'm telling you right now. I'm going to give you an example. You know about Running Bear.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my Native American guides. He's been with me since I was a child, spirit guide. I can talk to him. He helps in any manner of ways. You're one of the ones who told me about him. One of the things he's very good at is parking spots in New York City, or now, or whenever, but especially in New York City. When I lived there, it was very difficult. You always had to do alternate side of the street parking. That was every other day. You had to move your car to the other side of the street. If you aren't there at the right time, then you wouldn't get a spot. You'd have to circle the block for ages. Running Bear was extremely helpful in always finding a spot right away. And it wasn't just that. It would be raining and I'd be pregnant and he'd find me a spot right at the front of something where it's impossible to get a spot. Anyway, here's the story, is that when I had somebody in the car who didn't understand this or believe in it, it would make me question it, and then I'd never get a spot. But if I was alone in the car, of course, as an example of this whole situation that we're in, how it's so easy to trip yourself up with even the slightest bit of doubt.
So you're saying, is there a difference between faith and belief?
Faith is, you have faith in a higher power that things are going to be all right. Whereas when I believed wholeheartedly in it, it would always happen. And that's how I came to realize it comes down to 100% belief. 100%. not 98, not 99. Knowledge is 100% knowing of something. Belief is getting to knowledge. This whole thing that we're in is theater between two sides fighting one another in front of our eyes, pretending that they're fighting for us. Don't buy into it, is what I'm saying.
So the purpose of their presenting theater to mankind is strictly a distraction. Is that correct?
It's to keep us in a perpetual loop where we believe that this reality that they have created for us is the real reality, when it is not. It is the fake one. It's an illusion. That's why so many people have said we live in a hologram. It's not reality. The real reality is the one we belong in, the one we should have been in, the Eden, the Lemuria, the one that is where we can love and we do love. And I think the way to get there is through love. One another unconditionally, where we don't have people telling us what to do, what we can and can't put in our bodies. It's where you're hugely sovereign. You determine your own future and that of your children.
How do you think we can come to that point when so many people are resistant?
I can't speak for the masses. I can only speak for each individual who's aware of this and who wants to move forward. And I believe it comes through 100% belief and through love.
When most of the planet is not in that place, and we're in a place of antagonism, fear, concern, worry, stress, and strife, I'm asking you what the mechanism is. How do we get from where mankind is now, which is a place of strife and worry, to the love that you're talking about?
I'm not sure what you mean by mechanism, but I will tell you this. It's an individual choice. Is this the reality you want to exist in, or do you want to move into what your true destiny and calling is? Isn't this why the spirit teachers and helpers are unable to help us? Because we haven't created the real reality yet?
When you say the real reality, that's a place of bliss and love. Is that correct?
Sure. Bliss would be nice. Yes,
Okay.
I'll go with bliss.
Do you think there has to be a huge slam down of mankind or great awakening, which supposedly is occurring, but it's really...
See, that's the issue that I had been grappling with, and not just me. Why has mankind refused to awaken? This was supposed to be the Great Awakening, not Q, but we talked about this in our previous show, The Arcturians. We talked about this a lot. Why did COVID exist? Why was this pandemic here? Because it was going to catapult people into an awakened state.
And to a large extent, it did. But obviously, the job has not been done.
Identified by the vaccine, or just return to their stupor by choice.
And you didn't even mention fluorides in water. I'm very disappointed.
Well, that's an old situation. I'm talking about COVID and post-COVID. Fluoride in water helps set the stage
of course,
pineal shutdown, of course.
Okay. So before we started speaking, you said you're really tired of speaking about 3 days of darkness, but there has to be some kind of a big cosmic slap of some kind because there's so much resistance. And you're saying we can do this through love. And people are saying, yeah, sure.
No, I didn't say that. I said we can do it through belief. That was the epiphany I had. But okay, cosmic slap. I'm good with that. Whatever it's going to take.
Okay, what kind of a cosmic slap do you have in mind?
No, you have one. So the 3 days of darkness. So now it's coming? Now it's back again?
I don't know if it's back or it's coming or what, but mankind, see, the virus should have done it. And along with fluoride and water and all of that, it's like all should have said, what's going on? And people needed to have that awakening. And to a large extent, we have. And many people have come to that place of belief in something better. But you can see that most people are falling back into the pattern now that things are opening up again and shutting down again. There's real confusion on the planet. So your belief system is really being challenged.
The fact that things are somewhat turning to normal is an illusion. It's not. It's just getting worse.
Okay, I agree. I agree it's getting worse. So do you have a solution?
The knowledge that this is a reality that they have fabricated for us and that we need to step out of it and believe in the way things really are. We're in a matrix. Why do they use these words? Matrix. Forget what we've learned over the past few years or the movie. What does the word matrix suggest to you?
Covering a shutdown, which most people do not believe in, by the way.
It's a physical grid that surrounds the planet.
Right.
It's a creation. Do you remember the movie with Jim Carrey where he's in the Matrix and he realizes,
The Truman Story, right?
The Truman Story, thank you. That's what we're in. We're in the Truman Story.
Yeah, but you see, when you have people going into outer space, they say there is no grid and there is no matrix because they're obviously leaving and they're taking civilians out this week.
First of all, Kubrick admitted that the moon landing was completely fabricated. Okay, all this outer space is BS. It's more theater. We've been on Mars for decades, if not generations. They've been mining Mars. People like Sergeant Randy Kramer have come back and given full-blown exposés on what's going on there.
Absolutely.
What some fake astronaut says about what he has or hasn't seen, it's irrelevant. That's part of the matrix, that they have created this entire illusion.
What did Kubrick actually say?
They either paid him or threatened him, maybe a little of both, and it was a complete creation. He directed it.
As I said, this week, I believe, they're taking civilians into outer space, along with astronauts. I think they're taking 3 civilians who have paid millions of dollars. They're all millionaires, but they're ordinary citizens. One Russian, one American, and one something else. That's also part of the matrix.
I would think that there will be an illusion perpetrated on them, or maybe not. If they're billionaires, maybe they're part of the whole thing. But I guarantee you, they won't be able to tell the people on Earth what happened. Not for real. We'll get a story.
Can you tell us how people can actually break out of the matrix other than a belief in the truth, and how do they get to that truth factor?
This is what we're trying to plow through. It's hard enough to understand that there's 2 realities. That's step 1. Step 2 is to firmly believe that this reality doesn't apply to you in any way. Karma is part of it. It's fake, it's fabricated, and I still buy into karma. So I've had 1 foot here and 1 foot there. I'm not a good example of how to get out of this, but I have known that many things that we accept are completely wrong. And I guess the key is to stop accepting them, to question absolutely everything, or better yet, say to everything that's not my reality. And I've been saying that for years. Feeling impoverished, feeling a sense of lack, feeling a sense of jealousy or guilt, all of these things I've said, it's not my reality. And it's not. I push it right out. It's not a part of my field, my energetic field. So I would assume that's step 1. I'm looking for answers too. How do we get out of this?
I know you're not a big fan of meditation.
I can't sit and chant and hum and breathe. And believe me, I've tried, but it's about connecting right to the heart space and right to source.
So you're going directly. You're not taking the subway. You're going directly by space. Okay. Do you
I go right there. And a lot of it comes through spontaneously.
I want to ask you what you think about solar flares or solar flash, if you think that's a factor of what's going on the Earth and causing confusion and hostility. My feeling is that solar flares or solar flashes, I'm not sure because my teachers have told me about both, will help to break through the matrix.
Is that your 3 days of darkness then?
I don't know about the 3 days of darkness, because if the 3 days of darkness were to occur, it would be 3 days, and you might actually sleep through it or be taken out of your body. It's anyone's guess. But there would be a few days after that. And the idea is to keep your vibration so high, with or without meditation, however you choose to do it, so that you go through it smoothly and easily and you don't go crazy. And no, planes are not going to drop out of the sky. There may be a change of electrical frequency as you get rid of a lot of the energy. It's an energy shift more than anything, where we're so dependent upon energy now on the planet. It may come to the point where we're dealing mostly with solar energy or universal energy. And that has to be a shutdown of the planet. So there will be protection. The Ascended Masters are good to go. Will it be this year? I don't know. No one knows. And the reason no one knows is that mankind continuously changes its frequency, which is why predictions are so difficult at this time. But the solar flares are definitely changing the energy on the planet. Will it be 3 days of darkness? Oh, we're so tired of that. We don't know and we don't care. But what does count is knowing that what we're doing now is not, for the most part, best for the planet. We have to stop eating animals. We have to stop killing each other, that kind of thing. What's going on in Ukraine should have ended, actually, but there are so many people making money and they're so happy. So that will probably continue. But I'm not saying there's not going to be World War III, but it will be different than what we've known in the past. And it will be not anything you should worry about. Now, one of the things that again, I really don't like talking about these 3 days of darkness, but one of the things that might occur is preventing that third world war, because people will be smacked around. And either you get on board or you don't. It's like that kind of thing. So I just love it.
You need to explain. Get on board what?
Knowing that killing each other is wrong, eating each other is wrong, not having a plant-based diet is wrong.
Don't you think these Russians who are perpetuating the war in the Ukraine are thinking they're doing the right thing because they've been lied to? Not the Russians perpetuating the war, excuse me, it's the reverse. So the Ukrainians, to explain, have been under the thumb of the cabal greatly. That is a huge trafficking hotspot. As the Bidens have been there in force, they took over the energy companies. It's literally a cabal stronghold. In fact, it used to be Khazaria, which is where the Khazarian Jews come from. Now, when we say Jews, we don't mean real Jews. We mean the Khazarians. They are fake Jews, and they masquerade under their Jewishness, which doesn't actually exist. They are dark. They are evil. Many of the people in our governments are part of it. So Putin, in this situation, is being a good guy in taking it down. But what's really happening is you're seeing two parties fighting each other who are still part of the matrix. So the soldiers who are over there most likely think they're fighting the good fight. They're lied to too. It is down to us not killing each other, but more importantly, it's take the wool from your eyes and see what's really going on, that you're being used as a pawn in somebody else's game, and they're playing with your lives. They don't care about your lives. They care about their lives, and you are nothing to them. You're garbage, and you're out there fighting and killing and doing dirty work, and you don't even realize it. And that goes for the people in governments too. It goes for a lot of people who are working for the cabal, yet thinking they're doing the right thing. So I don't think it's so much as stop eating meat and stop killing each other. It's open your eyes and see what's really going on and take the right road, take the right path, listen to your own inner guidance system, which is probably telling you all along, this is wrong. Like the Royal Mounted Police in Canada, fighting the freedom fighters. There's got to be some part of you that says this is wrong. So that's what you should be listening to. Sorry, that's my take on it.
No, I agree with you.
It's too simple to say stop killing each other. It's not. It's stop listening to the dark. Listen to the light. Listen to that light inside of you that's saying something's not adding up here. And that goes to everyone. Everyone is sitting in front of their TV saying, oh, COVID's passing, everything's going to be fine. Yeah, I know, it was that food shortages. And I know, oh yeah, a lot of people are dying from the vaccination, but they're protected. No, they are not. Vaccines do not protect you from anything. They put stuff inside of you that makes you controlled. That's why we're seeing such a rise of zombieism. So anyway, enough with my lecture. I'm sorry about that.
No, it was great. I love to listen to you.
No, I just want to get this back on track, because if people have to awaken in order to eradicate the darkness, then they need a kick in the butt, because like you said, a lot of people stopped caring. They started to awaken, and then there were enough lies, or maybe they were vaccinated and put into a state of zombification. And they no longer care. They're going to need a lot of shaking.
That's good. A lot of shaking. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a lot of shaking of the earth. Wake up, people. And do you think a lot of this comes down to the creation of a new currency or a new type of cryptocurrency or getting rid of the banking system?
What do you mean comes down to?
A lot of the madness that's going on the planet now, the vaccines, of course, people are making billions of dollars. People are dying, not dying. Nobody knows the truth. Do you think the ultimate goal is cryptocurrency? Does it change in the economy?
Definitely, it's an outcropping. It's one more means of control. So cryptocurrency, which I did a deep study of, I had hoped, like everyone else, it was a form of freedom. And it is to a certain extent. But come on, has anything ever been created where they don't have full control? They have back doors. They're manipulating the markets. That's the same as the gold and silver, the same as the stocks. It's all manipulated. So yeah, maybe you can play within their system a little bit and find a little bit of freedom and perhaps some financial windfall through cryptos. Sure. But ultimately, the bad guys can still take all of that away from you. They will find a way and they will get it. There's often shifts of wealth. 2008 Lehman Brothers financial real estate crash was a shift of wealth. COVID was a shift of wealth from the mom and pop industry, which was pretty much eradicated, into the hands of the globalists once again. Same with real estate. We're supposed to be due for a big foreclosure market next year, crash, where people will unfortunately lose their homes. What's that? That's another transfer of wealth. So going to digital, it's a further means for them to control us. Literally, if we go to digital, full out digital, the game is over. It's over because they will be able at a moment's notice to shut off our ability to buy food, to pay for electric. If you're an iconoclast, if you speak out, look what's happening in Canada. Anyone who says it can't happen is absolutely deluded. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Australia. It's certainly happened in China. The social credit system, that's what that's all about. New Zealand, it's happened in New Zealand. So the point is this. If they go to a full out digital currency and we cannot use cash or gold or silver to trade or cryptos, we're done.
Don't you think that's the ultimate goal? And that's why there's such a fight now between the light and the dark, because they're pushing for a digital currency?
The ultimate goal is complete control. And that's one more facet, one more nail in the coffin of control.
That's why there's such a big battle.
The end game is to completely eradicate the useless eaters and leave a portion, the zombified portion, slave class, to serve them.
Okay, but if you stop right there and you say, okay, that's one side of the battle, and that's what we would consider the dark side. Can we agree on that?
Oh, of course.
Okay, then the forces of light, call them whatever you want, the God force, whatever, comes in and says, no, that's not going to happen. And as we speak, there's an unseen, invisible battle going on a galactic level.
Absolutely.
To break through that matrix that we were discussing before, so that this digital currency does not happen. I think that's the bottom line. It's because once the digital currency takes over, as you just said, the game is over. The forces of light said, look, this is not going to happen because we love the earth. So if push comes to shove, I hate using an old cliche, but it really is true. If we come to that point, they'll say, all right, we're shutting you down for a few days because we've really had it. We're fed up with all of you. And this came directly from Tesla, by the way. And he said, we're going to cut it out. We're not going that way. And that's really
good.
It's so far away from what we started discussing, but it really is the truth. And the solar flares had the purpose of helping us to understand more about the battle. And we're still refusing to see it. So there comes a point in the universe where, help me out here, I don't know what to call them, because you said we don't want to use the Galactic Federation. we don't care what you call it, the creative force, we'll call it that, says, okay.
Well, that's a good term for it, and that's an important term. Okay, because the other one is one that was thrust upon us and as
let's get rid of that.
It was a trap. It was a trap. Okay, keep going.
We'll call it the creative force.
Good.
Because as you mentioned, Lemuria before, again so brilliantly, if we have this planetary shutdown where everybody goes crazy and all of that until they regain their composure or die or whatever, when all of this is over, you have 3, 6 days, 7 days, no one knows when or how long it will take. At that point, we go back to the Lemurian energy, which is where we're supposed to be.
But we can't go there if we don't believe it. If we're still hanging on to this 3D, we'll call it 3D for lack of a better term.
But that's what they're trying to eliminate. That's what they're trying to get rid of.
Yeah, but we can't. They're not going to be able to get rid of it if people are still hanging on to it. Those people.
They'll hang on to it until you have this galactic shutdown.
And then they're going to let go. It's going to be a universal release.
Yes.
Well,
and it has to be. It has to be. Because if they don't do it smoothly and nicely, then you have the planetary shutdown. That's why it's in abeyance. And no one knows for sure, because if you look around you and you speak to people, you'll see how people are so uncertain and they're confused further by the vaccines, as you said before. And there's just so much confusion.
So Joyce, tell us please, who are you speaking with? Who is giving us information? So Nikola Tesla is here. Is he here right now?
And Faraday, is a whole gang of them.
Faraday's here. Welcome.
We don't want to mention names because they said, let's not get caught up in personalities, because those personalities were dropped a long time ago. Let's just speak about galactic energy.
All right.
And how they're trying to save the planet, which is your primary job, Elaine. And they stopped right there.
Thank you very much for being here. And please impart whatever you can, any help you can.
They want to get the word out that people have to wake up. Now, the vaccines are a huge factor in confusion because of the pineal shutdown, which is so important as we go through this changeover phase. Even though Tesla and Faraday and people like that, and Edison, the whole gang of them, were so caught up, except for Tesla, caught up in the
financial.
Right. But there was an actual love of science. But it caught us up in a phase of science that worked ultimately against us, trying to reverse it now. And if there's this shutdown of the planet, we'll call it that. We're not going to call it 3 days because everyone hates that. If there's a planetary shutdown, the energy grid will be changed. It will not be
brilliant. I love it.
Set up. It will be different, and it'll be better, and it'll be free. It's raising of awareness, and not so much of what we're dependent upon now. We don't know any better because we haven't been clearly shown the way, and we've also been blinded, and the matrix has shut us off from the truth. So I'm sorry, I'll let you speak.
No, I'm agreeing with you. That's all. Keep going.
Ask a question.
So the plan is brilliant, but the thing that I don't like about the plan is that once again allows people to take a back seat and say, the saviors are coming. We're going to have a planetary shutdown and everyone will awaken. This situation, and please correct me if I'm wrong, all those who are here, does not mean you can stop the work. And I would love for them to explain what the work is that we should be doing.
Well, after there's this period of rest, we'll call it rest. If this occurs, and the people leave who have to leave, and there's a great reset, and not only in humanity's mindset and soul set. Well, I never heard that word before. Their soul set, their spirit, but there will not be they using the word conflagration, or there will not be the conflict that we're having now. The conflict will be over. There will be no reason for conflict, and they can, in answer to your question, they'll go on with whatever work they choose, whatever makes them happy. If they enjoy selling or growing, that will be.
Well, but part of the problem right now is people taking a back seat with regard to responsibility. And their responsibility could be as simple as waking up and admitting that things are not all right with the planet and that You really should not be listening to these liars who are perpetuating.
But the problem is the vaccines are making it worse. And almost everyone has been vaccinated. Now they're pushing for more vaccines, especially in New York City.
Yeah, when you say almost everyone, do you have any idea how many people have been vaccinated?
I know that 800,000, they're admitting to it, them dying already, but I don't know if they've been vaccinated. I don't know what the numbers are, because we don't want to get caught up in numbers, because they're probably going to be wrong. But get the concept right. The concept is one of being smart. And by being smart, saying, no, I have natural immunity, and I'm going to keep myself strong and healthy with what my body needs, whether it's exercise or meditation, plants. If you have to eat animals, that's possible. They'll understand their destiny. It's okay. That may continue for a while. There's a great movie, Defending Your Life, where they're in heaven and they're actually eating meat. But the movie is brilliant because they're having mostly spaghetti and meat. It's what they needed at that time. But that will change also as the frequency continues. This will go on till 2031, approximately, give or take a couple of years.
Please explain what will go on.
Exactly. The changeover to a higher frequency on the Earth. They don't want to destroy the Earth again. The powers that be, the creative force, wants us to grow and to be aware of what we're capable of being. They want us to know what we're capable of being and to know who we are. And right now, we don't know who we are. We think that we're 9-to-5ers caught in a matrix and we're stuck there, and that's not the truth at all.
No, not at all. So what did they think of my explanation before of the two realities?
Go over it again.
There is a matrix in place that is kept in place by us fighting it. The sheer act of us fighting the matrix to get out of it is perpetuating it. The true way out is the knowledge that is a fake reality, and the real reality is the one, we'll call it the Lemurian reality, or the Eden, the utopic version of things. And that by 100% belief and knowledge that the real one exists and their fake reality has no holdover, you can transition from one to the other.
Well, that would be ideal.
What do they think, though?
People as well as I do. And do you think it's possible? Knowing the people on the Earth at this time?
Well, see, at this time is the clincher, isn't it? Because it will take time. But you just said 2033, that this
31 approximately.
Okay, so that's 9 years. So 9 years. Well, it takes is for people to start doing it. It might take 9 years. Might take longer than that. I don't know time like you. Time is no real reality for me. It might take a while.
I don't think it's this year. I think approximately the plan was for the planet to be shut down, but that's changing also. That's not set in stone. Nothing is set in stone. All the Bible predictions, prophets, everybody, Edward Casey, everybody, nobody's right, nobody's wrong, because it's changing from second to second.
Common sense.
So how is it possible to answer your question when there's such a flux in understanding?
What is going to happen with the, what did you call it? The electronic upset from the sun? Wouldn't that be shaking people from one reality to the next? Doesn't everything come back down to belief and knowledge?
In answer to your question, they're talking about a great shaking of the planet, which will probably be done with earthquakes. At that point, people become more open. So it has to do with their openness.
With the change in the Earth's vibration, aren't we essentially shifting from one reality to the next?
That's ideal, because the fourth is what they're talking about.
You're talking about the fourth dimension?
Yes, that's a transitional dimension. And then the fifth dimension is scheduled to start approximately 2031. And the in-between time is the time of shaking.
Are we in the fourth dimension now then?
We're entering into it. As you
Mhm.
see, the shaking and is starting already, but it hasn't really begun because it's still very subtle. They say, well, it's not subtle because of what's happening in the Ukraine, but for most of the planet, it's subtle. And people are dying here, they're dying there. It's wake-up time.
I think teenagers dropping dead on the sports field is not subtle.
It's wake-up time. And even though teenagers are dying on the football field, it's still a time of awareness because it's being attributed to other things.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they had an undiscovered heart problem, or they're still not acknowledging. It's a lack of acknowledgement.
Okay.
So then what is the question?
The question is, what does the light worker do? And what does the average human being do? I don't want to say average, but the unawake human being has to pull the wool from their eyes. But what can the rest of us do?
Okay, when you say the rest of us, you're combining it with people who are, not
awake,
us.
People who are aware of what's going on and want to help.
Number one, don't depend on television news.
We're talking about people who are awake and want
the ones who are awake. Okay.
Want the planet to transition out of this state that we're in.
Fine.
So what's
the task is to do what you're doing, which is to either do it by podcast or speaking to people directly. Usually doesn't work because they are usually offended or hostile.
Yes.
So that's not going to work. But what you can do is do it in a very not direct way. I'm sure there's a better word for it, but do it in an indirect way, such as either doing it on the web or doing it in a general way where people say, well, they're not speaking to me, but maybe there's some truth in this. They're not going to take offense as much as you saying it's really not a great idea.
Okay. So speak out. Okay.
In a very general way. So the message is out there and you're delivering light and you're delivering wisdom, but it's not in a direct way. It's not offensive. It's there. Right. So a podcast is a beautiful thing. Podcasts are only a couple of years old, really, in general acceptance. Blogs are great. Anytime it's general, where people can tune it out or tune it in and hear the truth, such as what you're delivering.
We have a lineup of wonderful shows in our first season here at Life Source. So yeah, we're trying to address people at their various levels. And also, what do people need? What do we all need to boost our spirits, our knowledge levels? Because all the information out there is false. That's the other thing, is that there's literally nothing out there of any value.
Okay, it's not necessarily false because there's a universal obligation. And what I just said is very important. There's a universal obligation for even the dark workers to deliver an element of truth, such as The Simpsons. There is an agreement or some sort of law, and I don't know what this is, where an element of truth has to be delivered. And this is true, where they have to deliver something of knowledge and awareness.
We've been aware of that for quite some time, but it's usually cloaked. So where is that coming from? Some people call it the prime directive.
That's what it is.
And who is it coming from? And why do they bother obeying it when they're all so evil?
Because it's a law of the earth. I can't do any more with it than that, other than to say there's a universal law that says there has to be truth given before the darkness can be manifested. I have no idea any more than that. I just know that it's true, and it's delivered in a number of ways. It's delivered even with people like Ike and people like that. There is still...
No, he delivers a lot of truth.
There's a lot of truth. It's also mixed in with darkness. Now, what is the word that's really required? It's discernment. It's a test of your discernment. Because when you watch The Simpsons, there's truth, but it's also mixed in with garbage. So again, discernment is necessary.
Well, whoever made this universal law forgot the swimming pool, didn't they?
They forgot the what?
The swimming pool.
Okay. I don't know what that means.
Yes, you do. When you manifested the apartment in Battery Park City, you created a list of what you needed and it was made for you. except that you forgot to say a swimming pool for Dad.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Right. But what that came to mean was a euphemism for when you manifest something, don't something really important as a part of it. And one of the things you forgot to say about Battery Park City is, please don't make us move in 2 weeks before the area turns into a tragic nightmare zone.
That's what we did. Right.
That was 9/11. The buildings came down 2 weeks later in your backyard, so to speak. What I'm saying is that when we manifest or we create something, you can't overlook important aspects to it. That's what we mean by don't forget the swimming pool. So when the prime creator created the prime directive saying truth must be given before evil can occur, kind of forgot or didn't put some guidelines in there, because most people, this truth, so to speak, is so cloaked, most people can't pick up on it. And most of us don't even find it till after the fact. And it's so subtle sometimes.
That's because the growth process on the earth is extremely important. And that's why we use the word discernment. That's how we grow as human beings. Is this truth or is it fiction? What are we actually dealing with? Otherwise, how can we grow? We have to be able to use our discernment.
Absolutely. But again, the information delivered is so ridiculously disguised and obscured, you can't even find it.
Part of mastery, which is what we're aiming for, is being able to find and use that discernment. You don't want to stay in kindergarten forever, which is where most people are.
You may be talking about moving past discernment into high levels of intuition and psychic.
It's all part of the process, because after there's this great shaking or awakening or whatever you want to call it, where we have the awakening of more people on the planet than we have right now, there will be great ESP. Right now, you're just starting to see it. Suddenly, you're seeing psychics everywhere.
That is great news. I felt my own skyrocketing the past several years. So the process of learning and awakening, which is literally for us gone on our lifetimes, but the truly accelerated learning happened in the past 20 years. I'd say 15 years.
That's right.
And part of that is your discernment moves into intuition really fast. From intuition, it goes into downright knowing.
That was very well said.
You've always, though, been psychic, so you've had a different path. And of course, yours is super developed. You're talking to individuals right now who are not in the physical form. For the audience to know that is important. I can see you in my camera, and I know you're talking with them. So how did you get to that level?
I don't know.
And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. It was just
I didn't know you had your camera on because my eyes are closed. Can you tell?
Well, we're on podcast, so the audience won't be able to see you, but I can see you.
Okay, because you see my eyes have been closed the whole time. So I don't know the question.
How did you move into this level of psychic development, or were you always this strong from birth?
Yes, the second part, and you know it because you grew up with me.
I think you've gotten stronger.
Well, ideally, we all do, and you certainly have as well. That also applies to your brother. He also has tremendously grown. I think most people who have not been vaccinated, I hate saying that, but it's really true, are having huge leaps of growth. Now, if you've been vaccinated, it's anyone's guess. I don't know. So I'm very happy that you've had your camera on, because I didn't know that. My eyes have been closed the whole time. But I've been out of body like for the last, I don't know how long.
I don't want to use words that are misleading. You don't channel. You're having conversations right now and you're relaying information.
I see myself only as a telephone, as a relay object, where if I'm very lucky, I can bring in the information as it's supposed to be brought in. Now, some entities make it easier for me. Other ones are like a broad base where it's more difficult. It doesn't mean that the information is not correct. It means that it's more difficult to pick up on it.
So the ones that make it easier for you, can you say who they are, or what is it that they do to make it easier?
Tesla jumps right in and he says one word. You know what that word is? He says, finally.
I'm so sorry. Tell him we've been going. Well, I'll tell him, Nikola, we've been going through a little bit of a growing phase over at Life Source. As we had to leave the previous enterprise, I see you nodding, that was not a positive place to be. And now we're in a very positive space with the people that have come aboard are the ones who are here. They are heart-led. They are here to grow themselves and to do whatever they can do for the planet. Whereas where we were before, unfortunately, a lot of those people were really looking for a payday.
Yes. And he wants you to acknowledge
his mate.
Yes. Do you know who his mate was?
No.
Can you see it in my hand?
Ether?
A pigeon.
I didn't see it. And I knew you were very close to the pigeons, but I didn't know you had one who was your mate.
Yes. And this is the one. He's holding it up.
Ah, is there a name?
I think he called her Lily, but she was a very lovely pigeon, and they were married and they were mates. And because of that, and you can see my hand is still up.
Yes.
Because of that, they thought he was insane.
Yes.
But it was simply because he was not understood. He was eons and eons of time. He still is ahead of where we are. But if there is a time of awakening, and he's really leading the force, by the way, if there's a time of awakening.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's amazing. Yes.
You see how sweet he is to his little friend? Can you see that? He said, but he's finally, and I don't know what his connection is with Faraday, but he said they're working on huge projects and for the betterment of mankind. And he's so happy that you're finally coming to the point of being able. He said there should not be any fear on the planet.
Agreed.
And he said hoping for love is like hoping for a lot. But he said they're trying to bring in forces of love and joy and light to people like you.
Thank you. So part of this epiphany I had is a lot of us went to work on fear quite some time ago and eradicated it from our lives. But that isn't enough. Eradicating fear was only the first step in eliminating the bondage. The next step that I realized was moving into pure 100% belief that this was a fake system, fake reality. And the new one, the real one, was you had to believe in it for it to become real.
Well, people have a problem believing in anything unless they have proof. That's why there may be this transitional state, which we don't want to talk about days of darkness or anything like that, because it can be done easily and smoothly depending upon mankind's ability to allow it to happen. What you said would only be possible. And at that point, they stopped speaking. I have nothing after that. It would only be possible if they have a cutting off. They're going like this. I don't know if you can see that. They're saying that there has to be a cutting off of the old. There has to be a cutting off of the old, and they're bringing in of the new. Now, you and I both know how resistant people are. But it would be so great for the planet because you would not be as reliant as you are on power plants, on nuclear energy, on energies that may not be for the best of mankind. Tesla, Edison, all the people who contributed greatness will now be able to come together. They don't want you to think of individual names, but they want you to think of it as a cosmic energy will be brought onto the planet. But there's going to be tremendous resistance because people like going to the store and getting what they want. And there has to be more self-reliance now.
So Tesla was the one who said everything is energy. Now we may think we know what that means, but if we put our full energetic forces into the new and real reality, isn't that what he really meant by everything is energy? Right now, okay, thank you for that confirmation. So right now we're pouring our energies into the old system. Even those of us who think they've broken free or are fully aware, we're still feeding it with our energies by fighting it. The better thing to do is almost to ignore it, act as though it doesn't exist. And then it won't. That'll become a reality. It won't exist for you anymore.
So is there a question with that?
What you put your energy into becomes real.
Yes.
So then that system, that energetic reality, we need to yank our energy from it. I don't know if it's a
statement. It was very good, by the way.
But isn't that what Nikola meant by everything is energy?
Energy, right. Yes, that's what he meant. And there has to be more acknowledgement of what the sun actually is. He wants you to know more about the sun.
Okay.
And about solar energy. Not that you should go and put solar panels on your house, because that's ridiculous.
Why?
But because there could be a cloudy day. And it could be possible that you don't really have a roof.
It's not ridiculous for everyone. Some people can do it, but go ahead.
So it's too dicey. So he wants you to acknowledge what the sun actually is. It's a manifestation. By the way, there's more than one sun.
I've heard that. How many are there?
There are many. There's an infinite number of suns and universes, as you know.
But in our solar system, we have more than one?
Within the solar system, there are numerous suns and planets that have yet to be discovered. And then, of course, there are universes and universes. There are an infinite number, as you know.
Yeah.
So what is the question?
You were saying he wants us to know the power of the sun. So what is it that we should know?
Okay, for one thing, he's speaking about solar flares and the fact that it's related to shaking of the earth. It can be. So they're using the sun and solar flares to cause the shaking of the earth if it's necessary, and volcanoes to erupt. And he's talking about drilling how wrong it is to drill into the earth. It's like drilling into a tooth and having a nerve exposed.
Terrible. So talking about oil and fracking, it's just awful.
Speaking about fracking. So he says that really has to stop.
Yes.
So did you have a question?
Is the sun a source of food? I'm told that it is. If you use the sun's energy, and some people advise staring at the sun first thing in the morning, last thing at night, you can get to a point where you don't need food. Pulling in its energy by looking directly into it. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct, but it's not adequate. There also needs to, what he's showing me are seeds for growth that have to be left in the sun first.
Really?
And energized by the sun.
Beautiful.
Before planting. Anything that you use, he said, you can take the eyes of potatoes that most people cut out and throw away. He said those can be used as planters, but everything should be put in the sun first. Whether you use crystals or whatever you use, should always have solar energy first. Approximately 3 days.
That's wonderful news. And what else?
Before you drink water, it should be blessed. You say thank you. Gratitude is extremely important. And also, you might want to leave water before you drink it in the sun or on a windowsill first. Even for an hour would be good when the sun is shining. If you have, if it happens that you have a period of darkness, again, we don't want to say 3 days, and there's no heat anywhere on the earth. He said, do not panic, do not feel fear of any kind.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just express gratitude.
Yes.
Go to sleep.
Yeah.
And when you waken, it'll be fine. Okay. He said, just try to go to sleep and try to be at rest or stay inside. Try to be at peace. Help your neighbors if they need help. Share. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Don't express fear of any kind over anything.
Right.
Because everything is very transitional.
Anything else we need to know?
Sure. Do you have a question?
1,000. But before we sign off for tonight, is there anything else he wants to leave us with? I know it's the collective, so they're all speaking through Tesla right now. Is that correct?
Nobody's identifying themselves,
Okay,
but they are doing a cosmic energy kind of thing.
What we need from our audience are questions. So please send them in to lifesourcehub@gmail.com, and we will do our best to get them answered in the shows to come.
Can you tell us why you chose that name?
I actually did not choose that name. The people that I was aligned with had already chosen it and had already begun the group. So it was an easy transition over. Now, it's funny because the first person who started the group has since left, and the second one has had to take a bit of a backseat due to a situation in Canada. So the name refers to our connection with Source, our connection with the divine within, the ability to create and to create this wondrous world that we know exists, the love light that's in each one of us, and so on. So I thought it was a good name. The email, if you would like to have questions addressed, are lifesourcehub@gmail.com. For our website, it's lifesource.global. There you can find information on the shows and the organization and so forth. But we too work as a collective. We're not here for individual aggrandizement or ego. So you won't find a lot of that on the website, but rather where we're headed and why, and what the shows are about. So we do have interesting lineup, everything from sound healing to maneuvering financial freedom within the structure that we're in right now, strategies that work, that have been tried by members of the group. We have historical uncoverings and putting the pieces together of where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going. Ties in the history with the galactics and our future. A lot of interesting stuff. One of which, of course, is our show, Talking Galactic. So Nikola and Mr. Faraday and Mr. Edison and everyone else is here. We truly appreciate you coming in and would invite you to come in as much as you would. We hope to have this show more frequently than we have in the past. And if you ever should just want us to do a show so you can speak, just let us know.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
They're speaking about Con Ed. Is that from Edison? Who was Con Ed named after?
Yes. They supply electricity in New York, and it was named after Edison.
Okay. Did we mention Edison? Because he's saying, don't forget about me.
I just thanked him and invited him back.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I wasn't sure because they're telling me about Con Edison. So
yes. You mentioned that he was here along with Mr. Faraday. So absolutely. Everyone was in their own way working toward betterment of the planet. They didn't mean for their work to be usurped and, what's the word?
It was usurped. That's correct. It went into the collective. And if you can look at it that way, it will be less hurtful.
It was used against the people instead of for the people.
It went into the collective, which could be used either for the negative or the positive. So if it continues, it's not going to be allowed. There's a real cutoff time. It's a cutoff time now. They want that energy to be used positively.
Thank you. So do we. And we will do anything we can to help that situation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lane.
All right. So unless there's anything else they would like to share?
Love one another.
Yes. We love one another and we love you. And we thank you so much for all of Joyce. We thank you. And all those who are here, we thank you for your input. And all right. Till next time. Have a great few days. Much love.
You've been listening to Talking Galactic with Joyce Keller and Lane Keller. To connect with Joyce and Lane or to check out our other shows, head to lifesource.global. And don't forget, hit the like, subscribe and share buttons. This show has been brought to you by Source Light Productions.